On the 12th of May 2019, there was a post on 4chan by an anonymous user asking people to post disquieting images that just feel off. It was here, in this board on 4chan, that the Backrooms was born. The picture would spread throughout the internet. I know that even I myself saw this image 3 years ago. But then, within time, it would seem as though the internet essentially forgot about the Backrooms. Until recently, that is. About 2.5 years later, after the first known post about the Backrooms was posted, passion for the concept would be greatly reignited. So the question is, why? What happened to make the concept initially fizzle out? And why? For what reason was the internet urban legend revived? Over the next 15 minutes, with help from knowledgeable resources on the matter, we're going to do a deep dive into the Backrooms. This is the rise, the fall, and the rise again of the Backrooms. Now, just to make sure we're on the same page, I'm going to delve a little bit into the concept of the Backrooms, just in case any of my usual viewers don't know what it is. Long story short, the Backrooms is apparently a multi-leveled liminal space located outside of reality that is home to countless monsters, traps, and folklore. Just to circle back for a second though, in case you don't understand what I mean by a liminal space is defined as the physical spaces between one destination and the next. So other liminal spaces could include areas such as hallways, alleyways, malls, and shopping centres, etc. And while liminal spaces have been popularised via the Backrooms, they've actually been a horror trope for a long time, with The Shining being the best example of this. There's always something so cold, bare, unwelcoming, and almost claustrophobic about these eerie locations, especially when deserted. This leads me on to the first point why initially it had some success within online communities, and that's because it's simply a unique and universal concept. You see, by early 2019, let's face it, the Creepypasta community online was very one-note. Whether it be tales of Slender Man, which were years past their sell-by date, or some sort of other weird adaptation of classic creepypasta characters, towards the latter half of the 2010s, creepypastas decreased in popularity all over the internet. Once you had heard one, you had kind of heard of them all. They were very droll, repetitive, bland, and the generation that they were popularized among had now grown up compared to 5 years earlier when they peaked in searches online. But the genre would soon be given a breath of life, because the image that would soon be known to start all of this appeared on the scene, subtly dropped into 4chan, with another anonymous user calling it the Backrooms. Not saying they've been there, or that they know someone who has, not going on with an implausible story that Creepypasta was kind of known for at the time, leaving us with just enough of a taste to pique the curiosity of hundreds. It's something new, something unique, something fresh. And while you should always take correlations with a pinch of salt, there is a small amount of evidence on Google Trends to suggest that after this initial comment in May 2019, the term Creepypasta did in fact gain a small, modest amount of traction in the months following, at the very least slowing down the downward spiral it was heading towards. But a downward spiral would also soon be in store for the concept of the Backrooms, because after its initial spread on the internet, it never seemed as though it would pick up, not to the gargantuan heights that we see today. What was the reason for its stagnation? Well, personally, I'm going to say that the Backrooms could not fulfill the selling point that it holds today, which is community collaboration. You see, at the start of this thing, a few people knew about the Backrooms, but it didn't have nearly as much lore as it has today, not by a long shot, with just its initial concept and not many people knowing about it. I'm going to say that it's important to remember that while the concept for the Backrooms, and especially the original picture that went along with it, did seep through to other social media platforms early on, as I said, I had seen the picture a few years ago, it didn't have that wide accessibility that we see today, because the first few people that knew about it were 4chaners. a deep underbelly on the internet that doesn't really appeal to a mass audience. In my experience, 4chan content can have a cult following, it often does, but it needs to expand to traditional social media sites before we can consider it popular. And eventually, it did just that. Like an infectious disease, at the start it took a while to spread, and like a snowball, starting off small, and as it rolled down the hill, growing larger and larger, faster and faster. Because really, how are you going to surround an entire genre of creepypasta around one single photo? By which there's no action, no characters, simply a feeling of eeriness, and a single, well-written 2-sentence post. It's tough, but by someone going and developing the idea, then there's an idea to be further developed. Through time, there was suddenly an entire online ecosystem self-sustained on the stories told by one another. This separated it from almost any other fictional horror subgenre. The concept thrives, just like the SCP Foundation for example, because it's a horror genre that asks its audience to determine its future. Whether you like the slasher genre or the battle royale genre for example, unless you're a filmmaker, there is no dipping your toes into the lore of these. But, as with all creepypasta, the backrooms can be collaborated upon and added to by you at home. Right now, you could post in the Backrooms Reddit or wiki. In fact, it has a thriving Reddit and wiki for this reason. This would all be put into hyperspeed on the 7th of January 2022 though, when the entire concept of the Backrooms would be blown sky high by a 17-year-old wunderkind known as Kane Pixels. Because he would release a video on YouTube called The Backrooms Found Footage. And to say that this video changed the modern horror genre on the internet would almost be a bit of an understatement. This video would be like the modern day Blair Witch Project, revitalizing a genre of horror that in a way was treading its head above water. In that month, Kane Pixels would gain 17.5 million views and over 300,000 subscribers. Finally, the concept would be fully brought to the masses with a single viral video. And if Kane Pixels' Social Blade stats aren't enough for you, by taking a look at Google Trends, you can clearly see that it was the following week that the Backrooms would gain a significant amount of traction online, being further aided by extremely high quality shorts uploaded over the next few months, each of them garnering up 3 to 10 million views a pop, and with the original video now sitting at 34 million views. You see, this is definitely a reason that it blew up, because no longer did we have a single still image uploaded to 4chan 3 years ago to go off and discuss. It's difficult to create a universe surrounding a single image. And if a picture speaks 1,000 words, a video surely speaks 24,000 a second. With each video uploaded to the site, more lore could be added. Each solved another mystery of the Backrooms, but asked a dozen more. And with Kane Pixel being so prolific in his uploads, being able to put up 11 shorts in the 6 months since the original video, it meant that his audience has been able to engage and go on this journey since. It puts the audience first. Going back to the concept of community collaboration, he is the perfect example of this. A guy that gained negative 40,000 views somehow in December 2020. A normal member of the online community like you or I was able to add a layer to this cake in the most elegant way. And it paid off. And overnight, he was able to light a spark in the genre, never looking back since. So that's it, right? It's a community collaboration in the same vein as the SCP Foundation, and it was just a plucky online filmmaker who made this thing the success it is today. Surely, case closed. Well, maybe not. Just like the idea of the Backrooms itself, I want each of you, each person watching this video, to suspend their disbelief for a moment, because I am about to suggest a chilling argument that everything you think you know about the Backrooms is not true. Because, you see, I thought it would be an obvious move to pin the blame, if you want to call it that, at Kane Pixels. Let's be fair, Any monkey with a typewriter could turn this script out. It's the most obvious answer in the world that a video that's hit 34 million views could spark an online movement. But ladies and gentlemen, I am no monkey with a typewriter. And so I turn to someone who perhaps knows more about the Backrooms than any of us. Someone who has spent the best part of a year dissecting, analysing, critiquing, ranking, conversing, debating, and writing about the Backrooms. You might know him as Broogli, and he suggested something to me that I hadn't considered before. I think the reasoning for that could be explained in two ways: a realistic way and a deep psychological way. A more pragmatic approach to the question could be to say that it garnered attention during COVID years when people had more time on their hands and had initially sparked people's intrigue. Makes sense. But if we were to delve into the psychology of society's youth over the past few years, we may uncover some skeletons that we really wish were not exposed. In regards to that, he said, "The deep psychological meaning is something I thought about last year when the world was going to shit. I think that since the Backrooms is an alternate reality that is so disconnected from our world, it draws in people that want to escape this life subconsciously because of how bad it's been recently worldwide. It makes sense that a huge creepypasta that explores an alternate world with thousands of levels and hours of lore would explode in popularity because people want to escape the universe we live in. Who knows?" I sat there and pondered for a moment and came to an epiphany about the Backrooms. You see, while there are older fans, yes, and maybe a few younger fans here or there, it seems as though most people who enjoy the Backrooms are roughly 15 to 21 years old, or at the very least around that age range. And not to be nihilistic, but I think that even the best of us will say that the world that 15 to 21-year-olds have grown up in may be viewed as more exceedingly difficult than recent generations above us have seen. In my own lifetime, the Twin Towers came down, and the aftermath of all that occurred. Then we had the 2008 Great Recession, followed by terrorism attacks throughout the 2010s, an epidemic of mass shootings throughout the United States, frequent natural catastrophes, the 2015 European migrant crisis, 2 years of a global pandemic, and more recently, a major war in Europe for the first time post-World War II, and an inflation crisis. I am 20 years old. The point is this: to add on to Broogli's theory, could it just be that while people over the past 20 years or so have wanted escapism to take their mind off the world's worst global events, could this generation's warped view of the world only create a reality underpinned by the macabre and depressing because the only worldview that they know is macabre and depressing? Did we switch out one world, unknowingly to us, for a subconscious recreation of it because that's all we know? We can't imagine a world untainted. This is a serious question. Take time to think about it, and if you have a response for my statement, for or against, I would love to hear your response down below. Let's get a dialogue flowing. For this reason, I believe that I've accurately detailed the reason why perhaps the Backrooms got off to a slow start and how things turned around to develop a new subgenre within horror. But the true reason that it has exploded in popularity could be up to your personal point of view. On the one hand, you could take the rational approach and say that this soon changed due to a range of factors, the most dominant of which include Kane Pixels, who was able to bring the Backrooms to life with his extremely high-quality short films uploaded to YouTube early this year. And moreover, the community collaboration that has allowed the Backrooms to become one of the most engaging subgenres of horror there has ever been, asking its fans to come up with creative concepts in order to expand its lore, and therefore engrossing them within the storytelling of this creepypasta. Or you could take a more philosophical and psychological approach that myself and Broogli have theorized, and say that in a world that in recent years has become quite depressing and macabre, a lot of people have taken to the depressing and macabre to replace it, almost as though that's all they know. They can't imagine an untainted world, and this is what engrosses them. it's your choice. And if you want to be engrossed in the story of this channel, please make sure to subscribe and like the video, hit that red button down below. I want to say a massive thank you to Broogli, and Gearisko for helping me out with this video. And with that said, please let me know down in the comments what you'd like to see me do next, because I'm only 117 videos in and I'm already out of ideas. Thank you for watching.